we can give them training, we can give them equipment. We obviously can't give them the will to fight. But if we give them training, we give them equipment, and give them support, and give them some time, I hope they will develop the will to fight.
The Iraqi government didn't waste any time slapping back at U.S. Secretary of Defense Ashton Carter. His words about the local military there not having a will to fight caused the expected ripple, as the Iraqis say it's all about the American lack of a will to fight and defend. All right, break out the he said spitballs. Let's see if we can get to work here. Our guest is senior advisor at the Brent Scowcroft Center on International Security and the principal author on the original Shock and Awe Doctrine. Welcome back, Harlan Ullman. Harlan, a pleasure to see you again.
Ed, always good to be with you. Thank you.
Before we start on a solution to Iraq, let's go ahead and take it right from there on Ashton Carter's statements. The Iraqis say, wait a minute, you Americans aren't getting the job done. The Americans say, you Iraqis don't have the will to fight. In your opinion, who's more correct?
I think both sides are correct. I think that Ash Carter is very frustrated with what's happening in Iraq. And the fact of the matter is that the United States has an incomplete strategy, an ill-defined chain of command, very, very poorly noted objectives and aims, and a failure to rally a coalition. So I think the Iraqis are right that the Americans aren't doing what we're supposed to do. And Ash Carter is right that the Iraqi military remains a shadow of its former self, with not very much time to get itself back into shape if it is going to retake Ramadi and eventually Mosul in the north.
So, Harlan, then let's go ahead and get to some sort of a strategy here. And again, we hear formal strategies, sure, non-formal strategies, ideas, maybe something somebody has drawn up on a napkin somewhere in a restaurant. But is there any sort of strategy, in your opinion, with your experience, that would work right now?
Absolutely. First of all, we have to maintain a containment policy so that the Islamic State does not spread. Second, it is obvious that the Arabs and the local regional powers have got to take on a larger burden for their own defense. Thirdly, we need to rally the Gulf Cooperative Council, the 6 Arab countries in the region who have already stated they want to form some kind of an army, and coordinate that organization much more closely with NATO. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization has an opportunity here to help train and help equip the Iraqi forces. And to do that, we can start by using the coordinated air base we have in Doha with the 6 Gulf cooperative countries, and use that as a basis for putting in place a land force component that can lead ultimately to an Arab army. Those are the things we can do, we should do, and unfortunately right now, I'm afraid we have not been explicit enough in what it is we hope to achieve.
So then who is in the way of getting this done? Because you just stated everything very simply, very matter-of-factly, and it all seems as if with at least a couple of phone calls and some starting negotiation, this could begin. Who's in the way?
That's the problem. Who is in charge? It's not the President, it's not the Secretary of State, it's not the Secretary of Defense. If you ask the question of the White House, who is in charge, you're not going to get a very good answer. Furthermore, the military command, in this particular case, Central Command, is partly in charge, but they also have to coordinate with 3 other combatant commanders, Special Forces Command, Africa Command, and European Command. That is not being done, nor is the coalition of 62 states that are joined against the Islamic State been sufficiently empowered with responsibilities and authorities delineated as to what their role is. So basically, we need to put somebody in charge. I would say put John Kerry in charge, with John Allen, our special envoy to the coalition group, and let them take the lead and get this done. But the fact of the matter is, you're absolutely right. When you ask the question, who is in charge, what is the chain of command, it is not a pretty picture.
I only got about a minute or so left here, Harlan. Who's scared? There has to be somebody worried about taking that first step, and it almost, I don't want to use the word cowardice in here, but there's got to be a lot of trepidation here. So who's not pulling the first trigger?
I think the fact of the matter is the President has to realize that we can either succeed or fail. It is a geostrategic political problem of the first order. This is a problem from hell, what is going on in the Middle East, but it's going to take strong leadership. So the President needs to say, you are in charge. This is our plan of action. This is how it's going to be synchronized. This is how we engage with our Arab allies and other coalition partners. And I'm putting somebody in charge. Somebody is going to have the oversight and the authority to make things happen. Absent that, we're going to continue to see the messes, and Ash Carter will be right when he says the Iraqi army does not have the will to fight, and the Iraqis are going to be right when they say the Americans are not leading.
Iraqi invasion, and that is the only way to solve this.
It is not the only way to solve it, and I think there's zero chance of that happening. We're not going to put 300,000 troops back into Iraq, and even if we did, what is the solution? What happens next? Unfortunately, you have civil war that's laden over Sunni-Shia hatreds that go back hundreds of years. You've had 40 years of absolutely despotic control in Iraq, which has formed the Islamic State. That does not get fixed overnight. It's going to require time, patience, and a much better strategy and a much better execution of that strategy if we are to see some measure of stability take hold.
All they need to do is to listen to you. Harlan Ullman, thanks so much for your time. I look forward to speaking to you again, my friend. All right, stay with us. MidPoint continues.